Hello, people. Welcome back to another comments video. Now, you guys know how we do this. I pick out some of your comments and then I just respond to them. Not much to it. So let's get right to it. Okay, so let's start here. Okay, so who do we got? So we got Boruto Uzumaki on the Your Girl Choose and Just Let Her short. And he says, I love you, bro. I'm a virgin and I keep it pimping. ROFL. That's cold hard facts. Truth. I feel like we're all friends of yours, bro. I love that. I love that last line there. Now I know maybe it sounds crazy, right? I'm a virgin, but I keep it pimping. But I feel like one of the unique things about myself is that I'm someone who, despite being a virgin, I feel like I kind of acquired a lot of like red pill-ish knowledge over the years, either through observation, reading books, or just like learning things from watching videos and whatnot. And it seems like a lot of the things that I have learned, like guys usually got to learn the hard way. And I just think like my skepticism as far as like relationships always kind of protected me from having to learn these things the hard way. I mean, I guess some things you can only really understand through experience, but I feel like I was kind of lucky in that, I didn't have to learn a lot of this shit the hard way. I was able to kind of just learn through watching other people, right? Now, obviously I'm not a literal pimp, but again, just some of these red pill concepts, right? Like just understanding that if your girl is choosing somebody else, don't stress about it. Don't get mad. It is what it is. As Coach Greg Adams would say, charge it to the game, nigga. All right. And so King Simba says King Simba 2323 says on the OCM Botcast 34 Trap Theory video, sounds like you're kind of gay, bro. Just accept it. Wear it with honor. Be yourself. Trap is still a dude, feminine dude, but still a dude nonetheless. Just be proud with who you are. You are bisexual. You like very specific types of feminine men, aka femboy traps and all kinds of women. As long as you know somewhat attractive and not fat. So I know Simba means well with this comment, right? But I gotta be honest, the whole concept of being proud of your sexual preferences or sexuality is something that I don't really believe in or relate to. And that's not something like specific against gay shit or homosexuality or anything like that. I feel the same way about girls too, right? Like I like girls, I'm attracted to women, but I don't see that as something to be proud of. I don't see that as something that is an important aspect of who I am. And you guys look at my story going back to the very beginning. I've never been someone who placed a lot of importance on sex or my own sexuality. If anything, it was the opposite. I'm someone who embraced being single. I embraced being a virgin. So I think, when I was at that time in my life, when I was kind of thinking about my sexuality and whatnot, when I'm deep into the trap game, if you will, I got to a point where I realized that, yeah, I like traps, I like tranny porn and all that shit. That would make me bi, cool. But I'm still not really interested in like going to the extreme of actually like dating and having sex with them or anything like that. And even more so, I also knew and realized that like people wouldn't get that, because I think when you are like gay or bi, people expect you to have like that whole pride bullshit, because they see that in the LGBT community, right? And so I think they kind of expect all guys to be like that, right? Where you sort of place this great importance or pride about your sexual preferences. But that's just not me. I don't really care about it like that. And I think, again, what tends to happen is some people, they see that and they interpret that as me not being myself or accepting myself, but that is who I am. I don't give a fuck like that, right? Like, yeah, traps are cool, tranny porn and all that shit. That would make me bi, but do I care to the point where I'm gonna put that shit on a flag and wave it around like Sonic Fox or, celebrate it? Fuck no. Like, that's not in line with my value system. I don't value sex and sexuality like that. So again, it's, in fact, just to kind of give an example of what I'm talking about, right? Let's say you have like a celibate monk who never has sex, but let's assume like he's heterosexual, whatever, like a heterosexual monk who never has sex. He lives a life of celibacy. Would you say he's not being himself because he never has sex, because he doesn't prioritize or like celebrate his own sexuality? No, because people understand that in the pursuit of greater spirituality or whatever his reasoning might be, that's his greater goal or the greater aspect of who he is, right? You don't have to put your sexual preferences at the forefront of who you are in order to be yourself. Like, we have our inherent preferences and shit, but at the same time we can still make a conscious decision as far as like how we choose to navigate those preferences and what they mean to us. It's just like the whole being black thing, right? People expect me to be like, oh, I'm black and I'm proud, fuck Trump and all that, but that's just not me. I don't feel bad about being black, but I don't feel good about it either. It is what it is, but it's not something that's important to me. And I feel like my sexual preferences are the exact same, right? Where I just look at it as like, it's there to have fun with, but it's not really important, right? Especially the trap shit. Again, it's fun to masturbate to. The porn is cool, but I'm not really interested in taking it any further than that, right? And that's just what it's always been for me. And so Jennifer Manor says on the Donald Trump wins the election video, you have the freedom to do what you want, but I just can't understand why you wouldn't even vote. It is you trying to make a change instead of staying with the status quo. Trump may be able to bring about a change. I feel like he's not the answer in himself, but you would never get to a point of change if you stayed with the Democratic Party ticket. Now, that's true. That's just my opinion. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not sitting here saying like, I should have voted Democrat, or because I don't think Jennifer is like a regular of my channel, so maybe she don't get it. But I'm definitely not like democratically or aligned with the Democrat Party either. I've always been more so neutral. I never really took a great interest in politics until like recently, to be honest. But like I said in the video, I can understand why people might be disappointed that I didn't vote. But I couldn't shake the underlying feeling that it's just ultimately not the answer. I feel like the issues that we have in terms of our society and our government are beyond like the established structure and system of voting. I feel like the way it's set up again is like voting, and it's basically as it is now, it's like a trap. It's a box that we're stuck in, right? It's kind of like if just look at it like this. If the powers that be, they need you to feel like you have some control and some influence on the world. So they give you an arena where you can fight and you can win some, lose some. But ultimately, as long as you're fighting in this arena, you never get close to actually taking them, the ones who are actually screwing you over, out of power. And that's kind of where I feel like we are with this whole Trump versus Kamala, red versus blue shit. I feel like it's really just not going to be enough. Even if Trump can have some positive influence, like, I just feel like we got to think beyond that. I think we have to strategize beyond just this whole idea of I'm gonna vote for Trump versus I'm gonna vote. And it's kind of like, I saw somebody post this on 4chan, and I think what he said made a lot of sense. And this guy said something along the lines of, people would sit here and like riot and protest over like George Floyd or Trayvon Martin or some shit like that. The Kenosha riots, the January 6th, like people band together and have these protests and riots, so like in these just completely ineffectual ways. If anything, we should be like daily protesting and acting the fool and rioting in the IRS headquarters and shit like that, right? Now again, I'm not saying that's literally what we should do, right? But I think our energy is directed in the wrong areas. And so that's really why I just don't have a lot of faith in voting. I feel like voting, no matter how you vote, is not going to really make that much of a difference, to be honest. And like I always say, we got 4 years of Trump before. If you believe he did a good job, look at how quickly they were able to undo it when Biden became president. So we get Trump again, but then what's next after him? Who's lined up? Fucking Vance? I don't think so. So, not saying 9995 says on the second Irish rejection video, that's why even though it's tempting, it's best to leave these young girls alone, bro. Which I know seems dumb when most of us here are young at heart. But when they're taking random memes as your serious thoughts on life, her brain just ain't fully baked yet. But, you know, again, like I said in the video, I think that that meme was the excuse to basically push me to the side. I don't think she really cared like that. I don't think Iris is really that sensitive. That was her out. That was her excuse to kind of push me to the side. And again, no hard feelings about it. I just think if there was any immaturity about how she handled the situation, I think it was the fact that she wasn't upfront about it, that she had to use that as the excuse, as opposed to just saying like, you know, there's somebody else, right? Which I would have been completely understanding of. But you know, the thing is, the reason why I don't really look at it like that, as far as like young versus old, or like just assuming that somebody is going to be mature based on their age, is because I see way too many women in my community who are older, but like just extremely, like, immature isn't even the word. Like, like I don't even know how to describe it. Like, just this volatile type of energy about them. Like, again, so me, I kind of look at it on a case by case basis. Like, you guys know Kayla, the girl that I went to the fashion show with, right? And again, we don't like each other like that, but I think Kayla's like 23 years old, right? So she ain't that much older than Iris, but Kayla to me is like a good example. I'm not even gonna say like mature for her age. Honestly, I think that we live in an era where people are, if anything, suffer from arrested development. I think, again, Kayla is maturity level is probably accurate for her age. I think we just look at it differently because of how immature people tend to be. But the point is, you know, meeting a girl like Kayla and seeing how well we get along and just how sensible and reasonable she is, like, to me, she kind of serves as like hope, right? That I could meet a girl that's younger, that does have a certain air of maturity and knowledge about herself, like Kayla has, right? So it's not an impossibility. I just think you kind of got to really look at it on a case by case basis. Certainly a younger girl is going to be less likely to have that maturity, but you know, I see way too many immature older women to think that that's the way out, you know? And so Kim Osabi says on the Donald Trump wins the election video, last upload is about getting strike for hate speech and how YouTube is becoming more dangerous for small channels. Uploads a video about Trump winning the election. How is he so based, bros? Yeah, I mean, but you know, I'm not really worried like that because they could axe my channel any day. You know, it's not the videos, the new videos I'm worried about. It's the old ones, because they usually go after an older video when they want to give me a strike. So that's why I say at this point, it really just, it doesn't matter, because they can come and get me from any angle. I could sit here and change my whole tune and start talking about being like a blue hair leftist. Like, basically, I could copy Destiny talking points, right? And they would still be able to go back to my old videos and find a way to strike me for hate speech or whatever went with the Ted Kaczynski manifesto. I forgot that one, but you know, again, so I'm not stressed about it. It is what it is, you know, but I'm an artist and content creator at heart. So wherever I get banned, I'll just sprout up somewhere else. And so Pensu Monster says on the I got my second hate speech strike, for me and 4chan girl got engaged. Slow clap. But you know, I gotta be honest, when I hear stuff like this, I don't get too excited about it. You know, I made that video talking about how marriage in the West is a trap for men. Again, I can't be too excited about you getting married, to be honest. But you know, maybe you guys would be the different. I guess really, I would worry that maybe you guys are moving too fast. Because then you say you met her on Duolicious, which means you guys have probably been together for what, a year, if that, or I don't know, something like that. But yeah, again, congratulations. But I'm always worried when guys get married, you know, because it's just the way things are in the West. But hey, hopefully you guys will be able to make it last forever. And then Kimosabi says on the same video, Chad, it's not just you. Recently, other smaller channels are getting randomly striked and even completely terminated for hate speech now. It's worse when the only actual way to contact YouTube support for ban appeals is through X, and that's if your channel is safe enough to be reinstated. When a ship sinks, you gotta jump ship. Yeah, YouTube is gone. That's why, again, I'm not stressing it, because I see now more than ever that YouTube is just completely compromised. I think we saw a big shift during the COVID-19 period, you know, because the thing is, I've been on the internet for a long time, and, you know, the thing about the internet, you've always had conspiracy theories. You've always had people freely being able to offer different and even sometimes like extreme perspectives outside the norm on just about any subject. You know, and so to see a situation like COVID-19 where when people, you know, whether right or wrong, were giving their opinion on like the vaccines, how deadly the virus were, death counts and things like that, seeing those people being silenced, that like, we cannot understate and undermine how serious that was, man. Like, that was a big shift as far as like the way people are able to conduct themselves online. And we're seeing this more and more. And it's just like what I said on the video, you know, the problem with that's happening with the internet is that it's more and more becoming this corporate control thing where the biggest major platforms can censor, silence, and ban people based on the fact that, again, it's a private company, so they can set the rules however they want to. They like, you don't have to respect the First Amendment on your the social media platform that you own, right? And so again, like, it's some scary shit, and I'm really, to be honest, like, it's very upsetting, you know. And I don't see a way out, because it's like, even myself, like, I want to sort of like I would love to go to Rumble as opposed to being on YouTube all the time. But again, it's like our alternatives are just like so shitty compared to what even with all its censorship, YouTube is still, just as far as like its overall design and whatnot, it's still the best of the best. That's for all the people. It's difficult. It's a difficult thing, but you know, like you said, I wouldn't say it's a sinking ship, but it's a shifting ship. It's changing and shifting in such a way where it's gonna get to the point where you just don't belong anymore. You know, it's like when they bring those Section 8 houses to like middle class neighborhoods. The reason why people move out as Section 8 comes in is because they know that crime and things like that are gonna go up with that, and that's kind of like what's happening. You know, probably a bad is like comparison, but basically the environment of YouTube is changing for the worse for people like me. And so King Simba says, bruh, chill the fuck out and stop. Oh, on the same video, and stop saying genocide and Gaia and stop with edgy content. Go more streamlined. Love your content and music way too much. You helped me a lot, especially with your upbeat attitude, being 30-year-old virgin and genuinely happy with elevated consciousness to understand loving self is the best way to go in life. And if girl comes, she comes. If not, who cares? Has so much more to give. And then Krim said, just stop posting the stuff that people want to see. And then Teru says, don't upload for 90 days. Make a BitChute and video account and post the links, please. But yeah, man, like, I'm just doing me. And really, I don't even think I'm as edgy as I really could be. I'm not. If you really think about it, again, look at the stuff that I get striked for. Going over the Ted Kaczynski manifesto, you can find hundreds of videos like that on YouTube right now. Clown World, please. Right? Again, they just, like, I'm telling you, bro, they just have it out for me. And it's like, you know, I gotta stay true to who I am. You know, earlier you talked about be yourself. This is what being yourself means. You know, you have to be willing to take the good with the bad, you know. And part of the bad of being yourself online these days is that you're not going to really be in line with the with how, or rather in line with the type of content these platforms want, you know. And again, if I start censoring myself the way other people are, I'm just playing right into it, right? And you know, that's one thing I can't do. It's gonna be what it's gonna be. I can't. It's just it is what it is. Then that's why I tell everybody, you know, support my other social media as much as you can. And so Proto Forte says on the Missing Out on Young Love video, that's a good video, melancholic as fuck video. Nevertheless, you keep wondering how things could have turned out, having just made a few different choices in life. You know, sometimes I think back to times in my life where, like just being specific, those times where I thought I might have been getting like choosing signals and shit like that. Like, what if, like, there are times where I think back to those scenarios and I wonder, like, what if I would have did this, or what if I would have did that? But ultimately, you know, even if I had the choice, I wouldn't go back and change any of that. Because I always remember that, you know, when I reached that point in my life where it all clicked, you know, when my epiphany stage, if you will, you know, to trust your instincts and to trust your gut, and then to achieve happiness, you gotta be careful with, you know, overthinking things and thinking like, what if this, what if that, right? Because the fact is, I had a game plan, I stuck to it, and I found happiness. And even right now, like, I've, you know, and I'll go into this more later, but I've even hit a new level of like happiness and growth in my life, and just enjoying myself and feeling better than ever about myself. But again, because going back to what I said earlier, thinking back to those moments, like what I could have done differently, you know, shit, maybe it would have been all right, but also it could have really steered my life into a completely different direction had I went after some of those girls. This isn't funny, right? But just some crazy shit. But one of the girls that I talked about, you know, on the OCM podcast, the Choosing Signals video, one of the girls that I talked about in that video, like, she died a few years ago. I just found this out. She was in a car accident, but I was thinking, like, man, like, if I would have took the bait, would she still be alive, or would I be dead with her? Like, that was I don't know, that was just a crazy thought that I had, man, as far as, like, you know, just wondering how shit would have been differently. But yeah, overall, again, I wouldn't do anything different, because, you know, I trusted my gut, I trusted my instinct, and I found happiness and peace in life. And so I have no idea how to say this. Says on the Little Black Dick video, I think some people were not meant to have sex. Destiny has something else in store for them. They do what they were born to do, while the rest procreate. You know, I don't know if I talked about this before, but it's kind of like when you look at certain species of animals and insects and shit, like ants. You know, most ants don't participate in reproduction or anything like that, like worker ants and soldier ants and whatnot. I'm not exactly sure how it goes. Again, I'm not an ant expert, but I'm pretty sure like 99% of ants don't really participate in the reproduction process. They serve a different role. And I wouldn't say that's exactly accurate of how like the human race is, but I do think that there is some truth to that. Maybe not as far as like not meant to have sex, but I think that it's kind of like, how do I put it? Like, some people are like chosen, and it's like, take the whole like human will aspect out of it and look at it more like a force, right? Like, when you have a young woman with an hourglass shape, big fat ass, pretty face and all that, like, guys are going to talk to her. Men are going to pursue her, period. Right? Like, that is a force of nature that compels men to act and to try to get with that girl. And it's the same thing with guys, really. When you have guys who are like very attractive, tall guys, like some guys are just chosen in a sense, or they're just like genetically gifted in such a way to where girls are just going to give them either extremely obvious choosing signals, if not just outright just pursue them, right? And I'm just saying that, again, it might not be so much some people are meant to have sex while others are not. I think it's more so like the force of nature itself is going to put things in motion when you're at that high genetic level of attractiveness. And when you aren't, it's very likely that nothing could happen unless you will yourself into it. But for, big fat ass pretty girls, they don't have to will anything. Tall, attractive Chad guys, they don't have to will anything. Nature is going to take care of that. I feel like guys like myself and most men, we're kind of like expendable. We can have sex if we work for it, sacrifice for it, humiliation ritual for it, but nature doesn't care either way, right? And that's really the best way I can put it. Nature doesn't give a fuck. And you can tell because we go through life and nothing happens unless we make it happen. Whereas for women, like, again, big titty goth girls, whatever, like girls who are really attractive, even like mid girls, but for women in general, things happen because nature cares about them reproducing. For very attractive men, things happen because nature cares. Nature doesn't care about us in the same way. We're really expendable. It doesn't matter. And that, again, that's not to be bleak and negative. I just think that's the reality of the situation. Even from a biological perspective, people always talk about this, but one man is all you need to reproduce with hundreds or thousands of women. But one woman wouldn't be enough to reproduce between hundreds of thousands of men, right? And so we kind of see just how nature favors like a minority of men and the majority of women, because that's really all it takes to continue the human race. And so I said here, what porn would you recommend to our North Korean bros? Because the post said North Korean soldiers hooked on porn after getting internet access for the first time while helping Russia fight Ukraine. And so 5 Ashel 303 says none is mid-November. It was no nut November when I posted this. On a more serious note, I don't know, to be honest. I recommend R Hentai or something similar. Reddit is basically a glorified not safe for work site for me. The hub just isn't the same after the purge. I mostly like the amateur stuff on there. Oh yeah, the Great Purge. And NWK says, I'm still confused on what the purge actually was. Can you break it down, bro? And then he responds and says, I think they took down all content from accounts that weren't verified. They were having issues with people posting CP and other illegal content. This why it's, to me, feels like it's mostly just overproduced stuff from the big companies left. Yeah, the great amateur porn purge. And really this affected a lot of different websites like XTube. X had like a lot of different places. And to a certain extent, I can understand why they did it, because there was literally no way of being able to tell one from the other, right? Because you could have easily, and you definitely had like videos of, let's say, like people who were like 15, 16, 17 or something. Without a doubt, it was there, right? But the shame is just that for the videos that don't fall into that category, for the videos that, where they were all consenting adults, for all that to get wiped away with it, it was definitely a shame. But I will say this, I've been on Pornhub a bit more recently, and even though, again, they wiped the amateur content, other than the verified ones, there's still a lot of like verified amateur accounts there where you can find some decent amateur porn. Like I be up there finding some good shit. Don't get it twisted. Because really enough time has passed to where you have like this new crop of like amateur porn creators. So there's quite a bit there if you're willing to look for it. I think the bigger issue now is the whole OnlyFans thing. So even when you find amateur porn on these sites like Pornhub and whatnot, by verified users, it's usually like short clips and samples and things like that. It's rare you're just gonna find somebody who's posting full videos just for the hell of it. You know, most people, they use these sites as a means of promoting their OnlyFans or other ways of monetizing their sexual content and things like that. To me, that's the real shame. I can find the amateur shit just fine, but now it's all just 30-second, 1-minute clips and shit like that. And so King Simba says on the Please Respond video, that's the, Please Respond song, damn, Iris, look what you did to my boy. At least we got some grade A OG robot music. Ain't had a song this good since Life is Neat. Love you, Marco. For real, keep this shit up, bro. Hope you make it big one day. Would definitely go to one of your live shows. Yeah, this is, again, it was based on the Iris situation, but of course I exaggerated a lot of that shit. I didn't care like that. I don't want to, again, because with the whole robot music thing, I always exaggerate my feels, just for the sake of making good songs and shit like that. But if anything, I'm thankful for the experience because I probably would have never made the song otherwise. It was a great inspiration for putting that song together for sure. And then Use Haslam 6643 says on a 32-year-old virgin video, age pill is the most depressing pill. To all the young cells, go out and live life. Life is short and you're not getting younger. And, I agree. Even though I don't have like major regrets about like how I spent my 20s and whatnot, the only thing I really regret is that I wish I would have worked a lot harder. But, I was just unfortunate to have one of the worst character flaws, which was procrastination and lack of focus, inconsistency, shit like that. I'm at the point now where I wouldn't say I'm completely over it. I mean, who really is? But I feel like I've made a lot of progress as far as like fixing that aspect of myself. But yeah, the reason why I don't really feel bad about how I spent my 20s was because my 20s was really like this journey of like self-discovery, self-improvement, almost like self-therapy and shit like that. Like really finding myself and establishing who I want to be in this world and what's important to me, finding happiness and like really the intangible things. I definitely dropped the ball and failed as far as like acquiring resources and money. It took me a bit longer to do things like getting my driver's license, my first car, my first job. But again, overall, I don't feel bad about how I spent my 20s because again, I achieved something that a lot of people don't, which is happiness, self-love, and things like that. So I can't really feel bad about it. My only regret is that I wish I would have worked so much harder and been more consistent and focused on the things that were important. But again, I had the unfortunate, weakness of being a procrastinator. But I think in the context of what you're saying, though, again, like, for the younger guys out there, like, just for example, talking about girls, for instance. Now, that was never the priority for me, so I don't feel bad about that. But yeah, if you're one of those guys and you want to have a relationship, you want to get married or have a family one day, I wouldn't say rush into it, but do understand that getting older is going to close certain doors for you or make certain things harder for you in terms of dating. But not only that, like if you want to be a athlete or something like that, again, as you get older, your physical capabilities go down, things like that. So you got to understand that your 20s are special, and whatever it is you want to do, you better get on it because you don't get that time back. So definitely try to make the most of it. Don't rush, but understand that it's a special time in a lot of different ways, and it's a time that you don't get back. I'm lucky enough that, again, I don't like feel too bad about how I spent it because I achieved very significant things during that period, but I still could have did a lot more. And so on the Young Thug is Free, but is it a good thing video, Pumpkin3405 says, I've known quite a few people that did probation and they all seem to fail. It is very hard because they cannot associate with past people or friends, companions still in the lifestyle. So that is one hang up. Another hang up is a lot of thugs still like to keep guns around them for protection or perceived protection. One gun near him in his life and he goes to prison for 15 years. You know he's going to have a gun with him at some point. Yeah, it's very difficult. I mean, and I think that's why they didn't mind, basically I won't say letting him go, but this is going to be a real test. Like, he does not get out of this without legitimately changing his ways. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There is no playing with this. If he fucks up even a few, like, now I'm sure they might give him one or two warning shots, right? Let's be real. But it's gonna be difficult. Like, he has no choice but to straighten up, and I think that's why they look at this as a victory, because it's like you either straighten up or you're gonna be right back with us. So it really wasn't that bad of a deal on the side of the prosecutors, because again, you either turn into a good Samaritan, a law-abiding citizen, or we get you. We got you. But it's not as simple or as gravy as people think, because it's like I always say, you are who you are. It's gonna be very difficult for Young Thug to have such a mental and behavioral shift to where he's gonna be able to make the changes necessary to stay out of trouble. It's gonna be this is no doubt gonna be the biggest challenge of his life. Can he do it? It's not impossible. I wouldn't bet on it though. And so on the chat reacts to the Diddy Freakoff indictments part 1 video, Dead Drop Holiday says he denied everything because he thought he was being protected by the same people he was handing the tapes over to for widespread blackmail operations, who have been running interference for him within the Justice Department since the beginning. Only this time, when he picked up the phone and made the call, the number was disconnected. Meanwhile, his handler had flipped and turned over enough evidence to keep him in Supermax until he's a very, very old man. They've been wrapping up these human trafficking operations for a while now. Epstein, Maxwell, Rainier, Mac Bronfman, NX, IVM Group, etc. Now they just search through people's internet history. This guy seems to be in the know a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I have no idea how deep, this rabbit hole goes in terms of like what Diddy was involved in and things like that. But, my mom, she always wants to bring it up and talk about it. And I always tell her, like, we're going to have to see what comes out in court when these things happen. But, I always sort of wonder, because I saw something that Candace Owen posted and I thought it was kind of interesting. And she said that when they were raiding his house, they weren't raiding it to find evidence. They were trying to get rid of evidence, connected to more powerful people. And again, I don't know if that's the case or not, but I thought it was a very interesting, I don't know if you say theory, but perspective that she had on it. And so I kind of wonder, like, is this a part of like a greater, kind of like with the Epstein situation, right? Where, he died mysteriously in jail. And if that's the case, then you got to imagine that that's probably because there were very powerful people that he had damaging evidence against, and they didn't want that to come out. So maybe Diddy is a similar situation, but then it's like, if Diddy is still alive and he's that close to these situations, then couldn't he technically reveal some of these things if he is that closely involved? But again, man, this is just one of those things where we'll have to see. But if Diddy ends up mysteriously, you know, right, committing suicide in prison, then we already know what's up. But those are the comments. I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I will see you on the next. So, Johnny.